Hello and welcome to a brand new Let's Build of The Island. I think it's best if you just watch while I get started. This is episode 1 and it's called Terraforming. I've just used world edit brushes to create this island and also the set tool to just expand it a bit. I've created those prominent outcrops out the front there, you'll see why in a bit. I'll just use dirt for now, just to lay out a foundation. And there it is. Right, I wanted to add a beach to the side. However, sand is really tricky to play with, especially when you're just building an island from scratch and there's no depth underneath it. So I had to play around a lot, and although this is miraculously sped up footage, it took me an awful long time to just do a little bit of work with the beach. So I didn't do anything too massive, but I did want a good section of beach. This is going to ultimately be a very large project, as this island looks fairly small at the moment, but I will expand it and it will get bigger and bigger. Who knows how big it will get, in fact. As you can see me adding various layers there of sand, just using world edit, which is a handy tool in terraforming process in general. So there we are, that's as you can see, the first start of the grass beginning to spread on the island. I just wanted to touch up the beach a little bit more so that it just looks in place and not sticking out at a horribly jarring angle, which is why I was working on this corner. I plan to include various things like a fishing village, a pirate's cove, which will probably start in this episode, as well as maybe a large city somewhere on it. I've added some trees just to add a bit of flair to the beach side, and now I'm ready to start the front cliffs and what will eventually become the Pirate's Cove. So just using a mask tool on the brush, I've converted all this dirt into stone, and I'm using brushes to make it taller, and I will then use the smooth tool once I'm done to just smoothen it all out and make it look more natural. I then dug out the little cove, which will become more prominent later on, and stuck a little beach out front for ships to land in. I then by hand wanted to create this cliff just to be more pointy and prominent and jarring, and I thought by hand would be the easiest way to do that. The next thing I worked on, as you can see me outlining here, was the big mountain I wanted at the front of this cove. Just to stick out and look sort of ominous. You know, you're clearly not sailing into the bit you want to unless you know what you're doing. And then you've obviously experienced it before. I also wanted it leaning forward, so you get this kind of sense that you're going into something. I also dug into it there and filled it with lava, but you'll see that in a bit. But this is not going to be the main port or entrance, but this is the one that all the backstreet traders and stuff use to smuggle goods in, for example. I'm just expanding the mouse a bit by hand to make it look rounder. And there's the lava that I was talking about. Got our cove in there. And our jarring rocks. Right, the next thing I wanted to get started on was this evolved fishing village. Except I decided that actually this wouldn't be based on fishing, although I did want it to be kind of only a small family-run business based around this small area. So it's less of a village, more of a home business combined. And I wanted this to be about crafting and renting boats, what with it being by the sea. So I've created this little stand first of all, which is where all deals can be struck, and then I started work on the bigger building of the lot, which is where the boats will be made and eventually launched. As you'll see, I'm adding a feature here which just allows the boats to be launched. As I will in 1 second fill it with water, and you'll just see how nicely that will just all work out. I'm just adding several levels to it so that you can climb up and overlook. Say the task force workman person can just overlook all the workers building the boats. It's just to test that it works. So as I say, it's a little family business, but they'll obviously employ some people because, you know, you've got a pretty large scale thing to do with just a few people. And obviously I wanted to build quite a big boat just out here to show one of their more impressive. Maybe it's their own personal boat that they only rent out very occasionally. Nothing too big or exotic, but a little sailing boat. And so there's our little village done. We might come back to this and add maybe some bigger ships at some point if we expand the area. Right, next, more terraforming. Those first 2 blocks I placed down, those are going to become hills which the pathway from the boat makers to the main road will pass through. The rest of this is just to expand the island. And then went around with a smooth tool just trying to flatten it off a bit. And then I started adding my road. I wanted a gravel path off from the village because I thought that's not actually part of the main industrial larger part of the island. It's just a small little home, so it's not going to be the main large road, which is what I'm building here out of stone bricks and stone brick steps. So I've left one side of it just stopping so that we can go off somewhere else with that, but this is going to be the road into the city. Now, the island currently ends in water, so I've had to get my old dirt brush out again and expand it even more to create a city space of at least roughly enough size to start working on it anyway. And I might have to expand it with time depending on how much space we need. So the majority of the upcoming videos are going to be based on building the city, which is probably going to be the most prominent part of the island, and everything should hopefully link into it. So anyway, I smoothed this off after a while, and so this is our finished area for building the city on. Next thing I wanted to do was just to kind of finish off this area behind the mountain, so I added some trees, and then I took to the grass with the bone meal and started growing various flowers and stuff, just to give it a bit of a feel of completeness and not so flat, to give it a bit of depth. Also, you can't see it's in the corner, but you'll see in a second, I built a little house in the village just so it felt complete and they had somewhere to live. As a family run business, you'll need a family home. So finally, there's the house. As you can see, I used 2 different types of wood to build it. So we're coming around the Pirate's Cove. I'm thinking of maybe coming up with a daunting name for this cove, but I haven't thought of something yet. If you do have any ideas, let me know, and we'll try and think of a name at some point. Then we come round to the little forest. and down to the family boat selling business. And of course their boat. So I hope you've enjoyed part 1 of Let's Build, and I'll see you all next time.